Good morning. Welcome to everyone. Buenos días. Bienvenidos al Immigration Spotlight. Thank you for joining us. I'm Rosa Lizardi. I'm the chair of the Latin American Caribbean Committee. And on behalf of the committee, I'd like to welcome you today to our Immigration Spotlight. Our Immigration Spotlight, the first one of 2025. A bit of background, we started Immigration Spotlight during the first Trump administration to be able to bring information, share information, come together in solidarity during that period of his presidency, where a lot around migrants and immigration was very volatile, very many issues being brought up, emergent issues, tumultuous incidents at the border, the caravan. So we started this Immigration Spotlight 1 hour every month to provide a space to be able to bring this information to you. So we begin this year focusing on what is happening at the border. And to start, I want to read a short poem called Refugee Girl, sent by one of our colleagues from the Global Women's Movement. Let me just read it here. Refugee Girl. I am a refugee girl. I live in a tent with my family. I am hungry so very often. When it rains, our tents get flooded and there is no shower to wash. I don't know what our lives will be next. I do not go to primary school. I have future goals, but no training. I can hardly read or write, sadly. My father cannot work here. My mother is always depressed. Some people run away but get caught. They say I am stateless. I have no passport. People outside the camp want us to leave. I don't know why they do not like us. Please know that I am a little age 8 refugee girl, hoping for a miracle, some country to take us. Here I have to hang on only to my dreams.
It's terrible.
So that reflection really focuses us on the issues of migrants and asylum seekers and immigrants in the U.S. We know that on day one, Trump signed executive orders that pardoned all the January 6th rioters. He withdrew the U.S. from the World Health Organization, the Paris Agreement on change. He said he would take back the Panama Canal. He would rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of the Americas. More relevant to our topic here today, he ended birthright citizenship of any immigrant born in the U.S. He called a state of emergency at the border and closed the border, canceled the CBP One app, an online lottery system through which asylum seekers could schedule appointments with border agents, leaving asylum seekers who had scheduled appointments 3 weeks ago stranded. Now they have taken down a government website that helps women find healthcare and understand their rights. Today, we will be hearing from our partners. First of all, we'll start with our LACC member, Rox, who will be bringing information about the farm workers. And then we will continue with Dora Rodriguez, who is a partner at the Tucson-Nogales border. She's with Salvavision and Casa de la Esperanza. We will continue with Paulina Olvera Cañez, who is the co-founder and director of Espacio Migrante, longtime partner of Loreto. And we hope to have Jimena Rojas, who's the coordinator and founder of the Parteria Medicinales Ancestrales, which is a midwifery service for migrant women at the Tijuana border. So let's begin with Rox, who I know, Rox, you will be having to leave early, but we are all very interested in knowing and hearing about the farm workers. So please, Rox, you have the floor.
Okay. Good morning. And for those that don't know, Loreto has been partnered with National Farm Worker Ministry since its inception over 50 years ago. And so we always have had a representative on the board, often as the president, but I'm the representative right now. And this weekend is our board meeting. And we always try to do, besides one day of business, we try to do one day of engagement. And so this week we are in California, and I'll get to what we're doing today because it's more hopeful than a couple things I want to share. You probably have seen the news, or maybe you're trying to shelter yourself from the news. But ICE did have a raid yesterday in Newark at a seems to me it was a seafood depot, and they went in without a warrant. And I believe they arrested 78 people. Let me find my notes on that. Oh dear, I'm already mixed up. Okay, let me go back to what's happening first in Kern County. So Kern County in California, they have an operation they started in January called Operation Return to Sender. And they're showing up, the Border Patrol is showing up in unmarked cars at Home Depots where there are day laborers, and at gas stations and restaurants where they know farm workers are gathering before they're on their way to work. And they're arresting people there. And what's happened is it has sent fear through the community, and they're right in the middle of their orange harvest. And so as of yesterday, in some farms, as many as 75% of the farmers are not coming back to work because our government is using this fear tactic. And so they're keeping their kids out of school. Obviously, they won't be trying to find any kind of health care. One woman that was working at one of the places where she saw this operation said that they were specifically just profiling. They weren't going after the FedEx worker that was in there, or someone that obviously didn't look like they were a field worker. They blocked their cars. They demanded documentation. And so this is sending fear, seems to be their tool they want to use, is sending fear through the community. And they're hiding from this possibility, which in the long term is going to affect the economy. Of course, the farm owners are very concerned about this, and it's going to hit our bottom line eventually, despite what's happening, the concern we have for the farm workers. And they also yesterday, like I said, they didn't have search warrants, and went into a seafood depot in Newark. And the mayor of Newark has come out because Newark is a sanctuary city. And so they figure that's why they're being targeted. Even a US veteran who was working there was picked up. And they say their focus is finding criminals, but they're picking up everybody. They're demanding documentation, and they're sending fear out through the community. So today, many of you may have heard 2 years ago, there was a shooting in Half Moon Bay, California, a shooting at a farm worker facility that raised mushrooms. The two farms, California Terra Gardens and Concord Farms, are mushroom farms. And at that time, another farm worker shot and killed 7 workers and wounded another one who survived. Today, this weekend, they're having a vigil in honor of the farm workers that were killed. interesting enough, when that got national coverage, it put a spotlight on the fact that the farm workers are living in these horrible, horrible conditions. Their housing's bad. They don't have adequate food. They don't have adequate health care. And so nationally, they saw these farm workers living in storage containers. And so that did bring a good spotlight on that. So today we're going to go to visit an organization called ALAS, which stands for, in English, Helping Latinos Dream. And this organization was started in 2011, and it started originally working with children and using arts to help them embrace their culture in the Latino community. And since then, they have expanded what they do over the years. According to the information I was received, they help children, families be proud of their own heritage and through cultural arts programs, but now they offer mental health programs, wraparound case management, immigration education, social justice advocacy initiatives. And they're committed working with children, teenagers, farm workers, asylum seekers. And so when this tragedy happened 2 years ago, this organization was in place, and they reached out and offered mental health care and support for the Latino community, as of course a mass shooting sends, again, such trauma through the community. So today we're going to be traveling to their facility, and at 11 o'clock there's going to be a press conference that we'll be a part of. The events today are being presented by ALAS and National Farm Worker Ministry. And there'll be a press conference, and then we're going to spend the afternoon with some local farm workers. And then we're going to participate tonight in a vigil for those who lost their lives at the time. So that's kind of what we're up to.
Thank you so much, Rox. Please keep us updated. Rox is the LACC representative also on the National Farm Worker Ministry. We support their work. We've been supporting their work for decades. And we donate as part of our LACC budget to the National Farm Worker Ministry annually. So thank you very much. Maybe, Rox, you can hang on a little bit if anyone has any questions to put in the chat. I want to move on to Dora Rodriguez. And I see that you are here, Dora.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here. Let me just spotlight you so that we are able to bring you in. Thank you so much for being here. Dora Rodriguez is co-founder and director of Salva Visión. She is also co-founder of Casa de la Esperanza in Sasabe, Sonora. She's also a board member of the Human Borders Fronteras Compasivas. And we're so grateful to have you here, Dora. We are all interested in hearing about what is happening on the border and your work and how you're feeling as well, and your partners and the volunteers and family on the ground.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. As always, is an honor to be in your presence, because it's a safe space, it's a safe environment where we can express ourselves. I always feel so honored to be here. But right now, we all have the same, I think, heavy heart. We cannot deny that. We cannot deny that our country at this moment is in a very, very dark times. The headlines, of course, is the way that these people who's running our country right now want it. The headlines are nothing but suffering and arresting people, going around, And it's not only in our migrants, families and farmers, it's in general. We are in a very dark time in our country. But that's why I believe that this space give us strength. This space give us unity. We collectively are going to be the ones to be present and make a change. And we always have. So this is not the first time that we're going through this. But as we all know, I really believe that this time is going to be very tough to really fight for justice and be present because so in Arizona, many of you that know me, or for the ones that don't know me, we live in Tucson, Arizona, and you probably remember Bob Key, who is an incredible humanitarian aid, and he is a member of LCC. I mean, we are just lucky to be part of all of you. But so the way we are seeing things changing so rapidly, on Monday, within 2 hours, we were at the border of Nogales, Sonora, where 100 people were lined up already and had their appointment for the CVP1, which many of us might be familiar. It was an app of the people was using. It was granted by the Biden administration 2 years ago. The people from that were staying in border towns or in Chiapas or Mexico City couldn't apply for a legal path, to come in and claim their asylum case, at least to have the interview with an agent. So it was able to get about 800,000 people during those 2 years and coming in with their appointment. But we knew that that was one of the biggest targets for the new administration because it was considered an illegal way to bring people to the United States. So we knew that that was happening. What I didn't know, it was the fast, horrible way they came to affect people in the ground immediately. So Sunday at 8:30 in the morning in the border town of Nogales, Sonora, there were about 100 people lined up waiting to their appointment. By the time 30 people was allowed to go in, it was single men, most of them. But all those 30 people were allowed to go in with their appointment, but they were to put in detention centers immediately. So from their appointment, they were taken to the private prisons that we have in Arizona, and we have 4 of them. So the rest of the families were told it's closed. You can no longer come with that appointment. So immediately you can imagine, I guess Jean is calling me, but let me, I'm sorry. My phone has been going crazy.
Wait, I think you muted yourself, Dora. Dora, I think you might have muted yourself. Can't hear you now. Yeah, unmute on Zoom. Still can't hear you.
Can I
Oh.
call you back?
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
Okay.
We can hear you now. Oh, now you're off. We heard you momentarily.
I'm sorry.
That's good. That's good. That's good. You're good. Dora.
Oh my God.
We can hear you. I think you're frozen, but we could hear you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you're good. We can see
Can you
you.
hear me now?
We can hear you and we can see you.
I'm sorry. So I was just saying that you can imagine the distress on these families. And those were families from Haiti, Those are families from Cuba, from Venezuela, and a couple from Mexico. So immediately, those policies, immediately, that signature created so much distress in our border town. And now what? We have about 200,000 people along the southern border with that appointment, with the CBP1 appointment. They are not allowed to come in anymore. So it was that, and then we start seeing the increase of deportations immediately. One thing I can share is that it brings me some hope that the government in Mexico has responded to this emergency in a very humane way, I believe, as for now. That's what we're witnessing. We're witnessing all these officials and shelters, and they're creating spaces that in Nogales, Sonora, and which is in the area where I provide my services. They're going to, they have a sport complex where can host over 2,000 people. Yesterday, the deportations were over 200 people, and we are talking whole families. They are going to implement the remain in Mexico, and they have to, because now they have all these people that has been displaced with the CBP1, that they can no longer come to the United States. So it is chaotic, it's distressful, it's heartbreaking. It is the reality of what we're doing, what we're seeing right now in our families. Our community in Tucson, Arizona is already going through the raids. They are going to small restaurants, coffee shops, stores. The community of Tucson is a sanctuary community. So we are being targeted too by vigilantes. They are going to they want to come and get their, they want to do their own laws. They want to take the law in their hands because they think they're the saviors. The sad thing is that yesterday, the Pima County in Tucson, Arizona, announced that they're going to close the welcoming center. They had a welcoming center, it's called Casa Salitas. They have welcomed out more than 100,000 people, if not more, during this past since 2015. They opened this welcoming center to host families that were in transit to their sponsors. But because no one is coming in for the past 2 days, because CBP1 is closed, so the Pima County put in a public notice saying that they are shutting down. So that's heartbreaking because now what? Now, if we do have families, I really believe that this is the time that in our communities, in every community, we have to show up and continue to show up. We have to organize with our churches, with our coffee groups, with our reading groups, with whatever. We have to organize and see how we're going to support these people. Because this is very hard for each of us. They have been around doing this work for a few decades, and we're seeing the devastating harm and policies in every side. It doesn't matter who was in charge. But right now, this is very criminalized. This is a moment of authoritarian and criminalizing everyone, not only as they quoted criminals. That is not true. They're going after every single person that looks brown like me. So we have to continue to support our communities and show up. And I know the changes come with community, the care. Changes have always been with grassroots organizations. I never seen good changes with the government. It's always been us. And, I was yesterday with Bob Key and 3 more volunteers in the desert. And it was a day of a beautiful reflection, but always preparing our desert to have enough water. And this is hard for me to say because it's going to happen. Thank you, Rosa. I forgot that we had the pictures. This is us yesterdays in the desert of Arizona, providing water to prevent death. Because people who are fleeing their homes, violence from all over the world, are going to be through our desert. So I wanted to show this water jar that we left in December when we went in a very cold, windy morning with this beautiful message that says, God bless your journey. I made a heart, I left it there. And yesterday we found it vandalized. It had the same pattern of a knife. So the vigilantes, as well Border Patrol, found our spot where we put in water, and they're vandalized our water jars. But we left more, so we never give up. We left a lot more in that corner. It is people who we know it's coming because we can find hats, we can find blankets, we find food that has been eaten, wraps from granola bars. So we decided to put that corner with more water. And this is how we show up. This is one day at a time, one person at a time, touch someone's life a day, one at a time. That is my say. I've always worked that way. Otherwise, I become overwhelmed to a point that I freeze and I can move. So I have to think that what I did today is what it matters. So I encourage every single one of you to, of course, we continue with our prayers. We continue with our spiritual strength. And I don't want to fill myself with fear. I don't want to give place to that space. Instead, I'll go in the desert and put water. Instead, we are in the border helping those very distressed people that they don't know where to go now. And I know you, if you are not able to do anything like that, you're able to, from home to share the word. You're able from home to say the prayer. You're able from home to connect with other communities. So thank you for the time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Dora. And I just want to let people know that this background here is the Casa de la Esperanza. Dora, show your t-shirt because this is the actual house in Sasabed that Dora and friends helped establish, which is right now abandoned. But I think that, it is very inspirational, and that's why we have this space as well, so that we come together and we don't feel alone, and we don't, we're not in our despair by ourselves. So I want to bring in Paulina, and I know I see Sally has a hand as well.
Thanks, Rosa, and thank you, Dora. You inspire us. We need you with us, so thank you. You are so faithful in being with us whenever we gather. And my question to you is, what will be the fate, if you know, of the people who were displaced from Sasabe, who are now in Tucson?
So we can, sorry.
We hear
So
you.
we continue to support our families. They are in Tucson, Arizona, with housing, with lawyers, most of it paying lawyers right now. because some of them have already been denied asylum or protection. So they are in the appealing process. And of course, they are very nervous, they're scared. Many of them said, that they cannot go back home because there's no home in Sasabe. But we know that they can be sent back to other parts of Mexico. And so we don't know. We just, supporting them every day, and we show up when they have court hearings to bring them some moral support so the judge knows that they're not alone. And so we've been busy doing that too.
Do you
Uh,
think they are subject to being like rounded up?
I don't believe so, because they have E94, which is a good form for them to have at this moment with them at all times, because it will show an agent that they are in the immigration process.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Good, anything can happen. Thank you, Sally.
Yeah.
So, and thank you so much, Dora. You'll stay here, with us to answer any questions. I want to, ask, Paulina Olvera Cañez, who's the director of Espacio Migrante, longtime partners, of ours, to, talk about what has been happening in the Tijuana border. Thank you so much for being here, Paulina.
Thank you, Rosa. Good morning, everybody. It's so good to see you after I had the honor to meet most of you in person in Denver in November. And I agree with Dora. For me, it's also healing to be in this space and to be in community with all of you. And about the situation in Tijuana. So Monday was a very difficult day for migrants in Tijuana. Monday morning, the first people who showed up at the port of entry in El Chaparral, they were able to access through their CBP1 appointment. But then the second schedule for people, they found that appointments were closed, as well as the families in our shelter found that morning that the app was closed and that all appointments were canceled. So it was very difficult. This week we had a word circle with the families in our shelter. El Círculo de Palabra is an exercise where the Espacio Migrantes team sits in a circle with all the families, and we just have a space to share how they feel, check in on them. But because Stacy, the shelter coordinator, had mentioned to me that Monday and Tuesday, a lot of people were crying, they were feeling very depressed. We invited a psychologist from UABC, which is the state university, just so she could be there and like help them do like some breathing exercises before and give them some words of hope, and then just be there in case after the word circle somebody needed to talk to her. So we were really happy that she volunteered to be at the word circle. And right now we have about 35 people in our shelter. The families are from Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador, and also a family from Russia. And what they were sharing is the same, that some of them were still in shock, like still processing what this means. They said, we don't have a plan. We don't know what we're going to do because we spent so much time trying to do things the right way. That's something that I kept hearing a lot. For example, a woman was saying that she traveled from Honduras and she came with a larger group, but some people in that group decided to cross the border through not through CBP1. I don't know if through the desert or how, but they said those people risked their lives, but now they're in the U.S. And I didn't do that because I have small children. So I did everything the right way. We waited in Tapachula, then we waited 10 months here in Tijuana, and now the appointments are canceled. So now I wonder if I should have taken that risk. And so like I kept hearing that a lot, that we were doing things the right way and waiting. And it just made me think, because in the US government's narrative, or in the social narrative, people always say, well, people should stand in line and do things the right way. But for people who have been waiting for this process and believing in this process, now they just lost their appointment and they lost months or years of being in that process. So some people were very sad. Other people were saying, we don't really have a plan right now. For example, the Russian family was sharing that they want to find out how they can cross, but they're also scared because they know that a lot of Russian families the adults are being put in detention and separated from their families. So they had a lot of anxiety. They said, we don't know if they have a small son, if he's gonna be placed in a orphanage. Those were their words. And what we advise them to do is, let's have a little patience right now and wait to see what is going to happen. We share with them, even for us, is not too clear what is the next step, because before CBP1 only started in 2023. So before CBP1, there was Title 42, and then before that there were waiting lists. So we said, let's just wait, and we're trying to advise them not to risk their lives. Like Dora said, unfortunately, what this causes is for a lot of people to despair and then try to cross through the Sonora Desert or through the beach, but we know that there's a lot of risk. Only in November, some families crossed through Tecate, not from our shelter, but some families from Tijuana, Colombian families, and they were shot at from Mexico's National Guard. So we know that there's a danger of being found by Mexican authorities or getting injured if they cross the border wall or being in the desert. So we're trying to tell them to wait. I know it's very difficult for them. But then we also ask them other things like, so what do you want to do in this moment? And I like something that the psychologist said is that it's important to accept reality, but that doesn't mean that I don't know how to say in English, como resignarse. Like it doesn't mean that
To
we
give
give
up.
up. How do you say it?
To give up, to give up. You're right.
Yes, to give up. So one thing is like we accept reality, but that doesn't mean that we give up, and like your stories don't end here. Like you're still writing your story. So I think it was a beautiful space that we had with them. And then they also said some positive things. I think there's different ways that people react. Some people were very stressed. They don't know, they're like frozen. Other people were saying, well, if we have to stay in Mexico for now, I want to find a job. I want to work, and then I want to continue studying. For example, one father from one of the families was saying, I want to take baking classes because he has worked as a baker in his hometown and he wants to keep learning. And they were also saying they want more workshops for the children. And they were asking a lot of questions to us about like what is next. So we told them, we don't know what's next, but we are in touch with many organizations in the US, and we're going to try to bring Know Your Rights or information when it's more clear. And we told them, we can't tell you what is next, but we can tell you what we have seen from past experiences, all the people who have crossed through our shelter and through Tijuana. And we share some of these stories. For example, we share with them in 2016, when Haitians came, the border was closed because of the first Trump administration. And many Haitians stayed in Tijuana for 4 years. But many of them in that time, they were able to go to university. They were able to work, to start their small businesses. And then when the opportunity came, they continued to the US. Most of them are in the US, but the time they spent in Tijuana wasn't time thrown away, because they were doing different things. I also share with them, we had some families who were here during the pandemic. And in that time, the border was closed for almost 2 years. And it was very difficult for many families. They weren't able to work. They didn't know when the border was gonna open. But now most of them are in the US. And then we share that others, they were able to stay in Mexico and make a life in Mexico. So we said, we don't know what's gonna happen this time, but we know how it has been other times. And one thing we were thinking was also like within the team is inviting some of those migrants that passed through our shelter but are now in the US to share some of their stories, to kind of give them some hope, some encouragement. Other migrants were also saying that they want to do something organized, give interviews. They were saying do a protest, but they were saying we want to show, they were saying maybe we will touch Trump's heart and he will change his perspective about all migrants being criminals. We said, well, we don't know about that, but we can try. But we said, there's a lot of people, not only Trump, but a lot of people who are fighting for immigrants, not only in Mexico, but in the US, organizations, people, human rights defenders. So you are not alone. And we told them, of course, like if you want to do a protest or press conference, people need to hear from you because you are the people directly impacted by this. So we thought that that was a beautiful space that we had in the shelter. And it helped us a lot to see like how we can show up for them at this moment. And so now we know what they're looking for. So in the end, we were like, okay, so we're gonna do a protest and bake cakes and do music. And in the end, I thought it was a beautiful thing because we were thinking what we can do to make the best of this time. And then to go back to more like the policies, another thing that we were surprised to hear, not surprised, but it still came as a slap in the face, is to know that MPP is coming back, because it was a very difficult policy that we got to witness during the first Trump administration. And we don't know how it's going to play out this time, but there was a Know Your Rights workshop to inform people how MPP was the first time. And I'm not so hopeful about the Mexican government. Our president, I have a little more faith in her, and she was saying, if the US implements MPP, Mexico, of course, is a humanitarian nation, so we're going to receive people in our country. But that was also the speech during the past president, AMLO. And yes, in theory, Mexico received migrants for humanitarian reasons, but in reality, migrants who were in MPP, they didn't have access to healthcare. They didn't have documents to work in Mexico. Many of them were victims of violent crimes in Mexico. In the end, it was up to shelters and organizations to show up for them. So hopefully this time is different. It's our role also to pressure Mexican authorities, but I don't know, like I don't place all my trust in Mexican authorities, because we will see, because this is a new president, but hopefully this time it's different. And just if I have one more minute, we had a local elected official. He's a human rights defender for a long time. And he was the new director of attention to migrants in Tijuana, in the city, since November. And on Monday, he was there since 5 a.m. with the migrants, and then with the people who were turned away. He was helping them to find shelters, and he gave a few statements in the press that Mexico needs to coordinate in the local and federal level to receive all these people. And then he was fired on Monday. So a lot of people from organizations, we don't agree with that. We think he was fired for doing his job. And we already sent a letter to the media and to the mayor, but we're thinking, wow, this is so intense, and it's only week one of Trump. And we already see the Mexican government doing things that don't make sense for political reasons. We don't understand why. But yeah, like the thing that was good for this week was being able to have that space with the families and find ways that we can also be hopeful about this time. So I will leave it at that. And thank you so much again for this space. Like Dora said, it's also like healing for us to have a space to share, like a safe space to share, and like also to hear from you and hear what Dora is doing also gives me a lot of hope. So thank you so much for this space.
Thank you so much, Paulina, for your kind words, for your solidarity as well. And Dora, we know that you're strong partners, and so we're glad to hear that we are also a source of solidarity, inspiration for you. So we'll open up for questions. We have one from Mariela in the chat. What I want to do, because we were unable to have Jimena Rojas, who's the founder and coordinator of the midwifery service Partería y Medicinas Ancestrales in Tijuana. They're located right near where Espacio Migrante is, and if you see Paulina's picture in the background, that beautiful mural, that is right in front of their organization. And the Jimena Rojas's Partería y Medicinales Ancestrales office is right to the left there, right at this same area. And so you work very closely in partnership. And I know that they are also in need. We also wanted to have Nicolasa Cordova, who unfortunately had to have dental surgery this morning. But she is currently a returned director of Casa Arcoiris, which is the Rainbow House shelter for LGBTQI plus persons in Tijuana. And she's regretful that she couldn't be here, but I'm putting this information in the chat. These are all organizations that are very deserving of our support. So Mariela, thank you for your questions. Yes.
Thank you. Muchas gracias, Dora and Paulina. Thank you so much. I don't know in what way I feel so far away from all the work we do. And we, as a member of LACC, I was wondering, I mean, maybe it's a kind of like a silly question to ask you how we could be closer to you. I mean, sometimes we think, no governments, I'm very sorry. My hope is in the work all of us we are doing. You physically in that area, and we kind of far away, but with our heart and trying to send a lot of energy and all these good things. So, but I was wondering, what do you think it may be something that we could do right away at this moment? What can we do? Because sometimes, you know, we see, well, we have a plan A and plan B, and then what can we do if nothing is going to happen from the government? Because we are listening and hearing a lot of different things, but you know, we are not going to be sure if everything is going to be possible or not. And we have to have this hope. But you are in the fields. Tell us, please, in what way we could be closer. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Mariela. Well, for us, it's always the best thing if you can come to Tijuana. But I know it's not always easy, but really when it has been wonderful when some of you have been able to come and to go with Mary Jean, and then I bring you across. But I know that's not always easy, but I think just letting the families know that there's people on the US side also fighting for them, and that the narrative that they don't want them in the US is not everybody, it's just the government and some people. So I think by supporting, like you, like Loreto Link has always done, supporting the work of our organization financially, but also I think it would be great for the residents or immigrants in our shelter to be able to know you. So I don't know, maybe I'm thinking if one of them could be invited to an immigration spotlight, or if we could organize some sort of connection so that they can know that they are not alone and there's people supporting them. I don't know. I'm thinking also maybe sending a message from like a postcard or even digital message to families to let them know, you know, that that there's people fighting for them. So yeah, I think that that is important as well, so that they know that there's like all this community that is with them. Because we know we've gotten to know you. I've had the privilege to even now go to Denver, to the Loreto convening, but they also need to know that there's this whole community supporting them.
Thank you so much. Yes, my wish is going there sometimes at the end. I'm leaving for Argentina, and also I will be doing some work in the rural areas, and this is why this is my commitment once a year to go there. But I'm planning to go and visit Dora. But since I'm coming back in the middle of April, I'm going to be in those places, and I know, you know, being closer, I will feel really with more energy to express more energy all over. And I would love to, this idea to send some notes or cards, I think is beautiful. And also we can talk to them and share, you know. I mean, I speak Spanish better than English, and I'm wonderful in Spanish. And then I offer myself for anything from a distance, in any time, for both of you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariela. Dora, maybe if you want to add to that, and we'll bring in Maureen for the next question.
Yeah, I just want to add that what a beautiful idea, Paulina. I think it's a way to include everyone who is far away from our borders. But I mean, let's continue to, we can build a quilt of hope. You know, I know many of you love to quilt, many of you love to do embroidery, many of you love to knit, you know, and in Tucson, Casas Alitas had this beautiful quilt of hope. And then it's just with messages, you know, you're not alone, we're here for you. And by you doing that in your house or in your church or in your communities, it brings hope. That's all it is. So we can do that. I also encourage if you're home and then in your environment, you can do little hats for children. We will love them because in Nogales, Sonora, most of our little ones come back very, very cold. So we receive a lot of those beautiful knit hats or little bandana. No, how do you say them? Scarves that they come, you know. So all that kind of things that you can do. And Mariela, thank you so much. You always a support, and I know she has helped us to spread the word. Even in Argentina, I done a couple presentations, and people had no idea what was going on in our borderlands. So thank you. I think we together can do something beautiful. And yes, let's bring that message loud and strong. We can do it digital, we can do it with a quill, we can do it with cards, and post it out there, you know. I believe that that's how we're going to resist the misinformation, how we're going to resist hate, is and always being is love, hope, and unity. How do you say that? United? Yeah. So thank you. It was great.
United. Thank you so much. We have Maureen and Beth, and we also have a question in the chat, which I'll read. But go ahead, Maureen, and I'll bring you in, Beth.
I want to thank you, Paulina, for talking about the psychologist that came, because I hadn't thought of that. And we in Colorado have a lot of immigration support groups, and they've been coordinated ever since there was the threat of this new administration coming. And I think that last night on one of the meetings, the women's, several of our folks that are being threatened said it was so good just to be on the meeting. They're not even talking about their problems, but just to be hearing people that care for them and are planning for them. And a pastor was on, and he suggested contacting food banks, because the people that I am dealing with now are afraid to go to the food banks, and that people are starting to deliver food to families until they can feel a little more confident that they will be safe, because a lot of these folks do have their asylum papers. If those will be honored, I don't know, but I'm hopeful that they will have their hearings. That's what I wanted to say, and thank you so much, and please say hi to Jimena for me.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Beth, why don't you come in and then we'll have Paulina and Dora close us out. And let me just read from Francesca. Hello, everyone. Hola. We're in Boulder, Colorado, which is a sanctuary city. What can we do going forward to be ready for raids such as what happened in New York? We know the sanctuary cities will be targeted.
Hmm.
So go ahead, Beth, with your question as well.
Okay, great. It's mostly just deep gratitude to you, Dora, and you, Paulina. And I don't know if Rox has already left the call or if she's still on, for all the amazing work that you're doing. And I noticed we have quite a few of our Loretto sisters on the call today, which is great. And as your United Nations rep, oh, and yeah, thank you, Carolyn, for the comment in the chat. Please send the addresses, and I hope you all can send around both the electronic links and the addresses, so we could be sending both electronic and real-time notes to people. But I wanted to let our sisters know that I now also represent Sisters Rising Worldwide at the UN, as well as Loretto and BVM at the UN. And all of you who are Catholic sisters who have the SL behind your name are invited to log on, and I can do a session with you to help you get on to what's called the Peace Room on the Sisters Rising Worldwide platform. It's just srw.org. Rosa, maybe you could put that into the chat for folks. For Sisters Rising Worldwide, srw.org. And you can get on that platform and you can be raising money for any of these organizations. You can put up a project once you get your profile up there and put any one of these organizations as a project that you wish to support and be affiliated with, whether that be through LACC, through Loretto Link, through the Loretto community. I have the feeling Dora would welcome your support, and probably Paulina and Rainbow Arco Iris as well. And so what we can do is we can get the funding from this country. My colleague, Sister Irene, right now is meeting with the COP Foundation in Minneapolis, getting the funding. So the funding is flowing. This is one way to get the funding flowing from here in the wealthier countries to the places where it is most needed. And the US-Mexico border right now is certainly one of those places where we can be addressing the root causes of both social and ecological injustice. And so for those of you who aren't totally freaked out by computer stuff, it's not too onerous. There is some technology involved, but it is a pathway to the material funding that I think will go along with the emotional support. Thanks, everyone, and so grateful to be with y'all.
Thank you so much, Beth. Paulina, Dora, if you want to reply.
No, I just want to again express my thank you to all of you for this space and for like hugging us with community and solidarity. And yeah, it's always healing to be again in this space and also to learn from all of you and the work that you're all doing as well. So thank you for the opportunity. And also always good to see Dora, who I admire so much.
Thank you, Paulina. Thank you so much. Dora.
Just want to close this wonderful opportunity to be together this morning with a word of gratitude. We have to also recognize the amazing work Maureen is doing. She is amazing. I had to enjoy her ride with her in Colorado and her stories with her families and how she became a grandma to so many. So, those are the things that have to lift us up. And I think this is a moment that we spend more time in listening to stories, good stories, because we do have those small victories or victories among our work.
you know, and even if it's one family at a time. In the town of Sonora, we're already witnessing people self-deporting, people who says, I can't stay anymore, so I'm going back. And those people also needs our support, because Paulina is right, the Mexican government is well known by being anti-immigrant. I mean, and they run with the policies of the United States. We cannot forget that, you know. So we are, as a community, as a, organizations, are there to support them also. We already had those. But for me, we supported a family on Sunday that was self-deport. Their truck got confiscated in Nogales, Sonora, because they were undocumented in this country. So they didn't have a right to take their truck. And on top of that, the federales, the people who confiscated their truck, took $5,000 from them. And that was the family saving. But we were able to witness and be there and support them, and brought the media, brought attention to the problem. And then yesterday I received, and I forgot to give it to you, Rosa, to share the beautiful picture of the family that is now in Michoacan, in their little casita, in their little home. So, you know, we have to continue to celebrate small victories. And for us at this moment are big victories. And let's continue to shine, like the Loreto community says, be the light and darkness. Did I say that right? Continue to be the light in the darkness. Thank you all.
There you go, the light
Thank
and
you.
darkness. Thank you so much to both of you. And I just put in the chat, I have just a couple of closing remarks regarding the LHCC. One, we do have a listserv for any updates to send out the addresses, if you didn't get them from the chat, the links to the organizations, any other updates, photos that you might find useful. Please get on our listserv. You can write to LoretoLACC@gmail.com. It's in the chat. Or you can just write to me, to Sally, to one of us, Mary Jean, and we'll get you on that listserv. The other thing is our next immigration spotlight that we have scheduled is the week of March 17th. We need to nail down the date, but it's probably going to be that Thursday, March 20th, or that Friday, March 21st. It is during the UN Commission on the Status of Women. So it's going to be focused on the global connections, and of course, to give updates about what's been happening. If there's anything that is emerging and urgent, we will schedule another immigration spotlight in February. But for now, the next one is during the Commission on the Status of Women, in partnership with our Loreto at the UN office. So we're happy about that. And we also are sending out this sign-on, which I'll put in the chat. This is a sign-on letter to ensure that we support no mining in El Salvador. There's a move by the citizen President Bukele to open up mining, and in 2017, El Salvador was the first country in the world to ban mining in their country completely. So all of these types of news information we send out on our listserv, and the Loreto communications office is also really wonderful in posting our information online on the website as updates. And so please look for the announcements in our listserv, in the Loreto updates, and also on the website. Again, we want to send all our love to Paulina and Dora and Bob and Jimena and Nicolasa and all of our partners along the border. The best to you and your families and your staff on behalf of LACC. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And we're with you in
Yes.
solidarity. Gracias, muchísimas gracias.
Gracias.
And thank you to everyone for being here today. Thank you so much. If you have any other comments or want to support, please do. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for being here.